Darkness is becoming a more frequent guest in American homes. It isn't hitting every doorstep simultaneously, but the data points to a growing instability in our energy landscape. Certain pockets of the country are feeling the squeeze more than others, and identifying those pressure points is the secret to staying comfortable. When the lights flicker out, my goal today isn't to sell you on a total societal collapse or a crumbling nation. It is simply to look at the math, where aging equipment meets brutal weather, and a demand for power that is reaching its breaking point. When you recognize the specific hurdles your region faces, you can treat a power failure like any other predictable weather event. Welcome to Larawas Uravar, where we're breaking down 13 states facing the highest risk of outages in 2026, the specific reasons behind those vulnerabilities, and how you can stay ahead of the curve. Before we dive into the map, we have to look at the big picture of why our light switches aren't as reliable as they used to be. The American electrical grid is essentially a vintage machine trying to handle modern high-speed traffic. Much of the hardware out there was installed decades ago, yet we are demanding more juice than ever. Think about the strain of every air conditioner humping during a record heat wave, or every heater cranking during a polar vortex. Now mix in weather patterns that have lost their predictability, biting winter winds, relentless summer sun, and storms that pack a harder punch than they used to. This isn't a design flaw. It's a system being pushed far beyond its original intent. It is vital to keep your perspective here. Most of these events aren't month-long catastrophes. They are local hiccups lasting from a few hours to a couple of days. We aren't talking about a permanent return to the 1800s. We're talking about managing temporary interruptions that are simply becoming part of the modern cost of living. Your location doesn't dictate whether you should be ready. It dictates the tools you'll need to use. Let's look at California first. It's the obvious candidate for a reason. Between a massive population and a grid that's showing its age, the state is often forced into rolling blackouts just to stay upright. But there's a unique twist here: wildfire prevention. Utilities often kill the power on purpose during high winds to ensure a fallen line doesn't spark a disaster. In California, a blackout is often a safety feature, not a bug. If you're a resident there, your strategy should focus on seasonal intentional shut-offs that might last several days. Texas tells a different story because the Lone Star State operates its own private energy island. It lacks the safety net of drawing power from neighbors when things go south. We all saw the fragility of this setup during the 2021 freeze, but the summer heat is just as dangerous. The grid there is a high wire act where supply and demand are constantly fighting for balance. Being a Texan means preparing for both ends of the thermometer. Over in Arizona, the enemy is sheer heat. When the mercury hits 115 degrees in Phoenix, electricity isn't a luxury, it's life support. The massive surge in air conditioning used during these peaks puts the grid on life support. Since Arizona often imports power from other regions, it's also at the mercy of outside variables. Here at El Aral Asuvyur, we emphasize that for Arizonans, the summer is your battle season, where staying cool without a plug is the priority. Nevada shares that desert heat DNA. Rapid urban growth in Vegas and Reno has outpaced the local infrastructure because Nevada's grid is a communal effort. With surrounding states, a problem in one region can easily bleed across the border. If you're in Nevada, your energy plan should be as robust as your summer heat plan. Louisiana faces a physical threat rather than just a demand issue. Hurricanes are the primary culprit. These aren't just technical glitches. These are storms that physically tear down the lines and flood the substations. Recovery takes longer because the damage is structural. If you live on the Gulf, your clock starts in June. You need to be ready for the long haul, weeks not hours, with a focus on clean water and communication. Florida is in a similar boat, but on a larger scale. The state is a magnet for tropical systems from both the Atlantic and the Gulf. Beyond the big storms, the daily humidity and lightning strikes create a constant baseline of local failures. Because of the dense coastal populations, one event can affect millions. For Floridians, readiness is a year-round lifestyle. Layering quick fix supplies with long-term reserves. North Carolina is a sleeper on this list. From coastal hurricane surges to inland ice storms that snap frozen branches onto power lines, the state gets hit from all angles. In rural areas, the wait for a repair crew can be significantly longer than in the city. Depending on your zip code, you're either preparing For a tropical storm or a winter deep freeze, South Carolina mirrors these issues. It's a combination of Atlantic storms and an aging infrastructure that hasn't quite kept up with the state's growth. Significant historical outages show that the grid here can be slow to bounce back. The lesson is simple: know your specific local threats, and don't assume the power will be back by dinner. Georgia rounds out the southern risks, while hurricanes usually lose steam before hitting the interior. They still bring enough wind and rain to cause chaos. Combined with summer tornadoes and high humidity, Georgia residents are most likely to deal with localized, short-term disruptions that can still derail your entire week. If you aren't ready, heading into the Midwest, Illinois presents a dual-threat environment. Chicago's summers are legendary for their humidity, but its winters are brutal. The grid is forced to pivot between these extremes, often relying on older hardware that struggles to keep up. Preparation here is about maintaining your home's temperature, regardless of what the weather is doing outside Michigan. Michigan leans even harder into the winter risks. Heavy ice and snow are the main villains here, often delaying repair crews for days. While the summers are mild, the severe thunderstorms can still knock out power to rural stretches for extended periods. In Michigan, staying warm is the primary objective of any survival plan. Wisconsin follows a similar pattern. It's a state defined by its resilience to the cold, but blizzards and extreme sub-zero temperatures put massive stress on the electrical system. If you're in the Northwoods, you need to know how to manage your pipes, your heat, and your food when the thermometer drops and the lights go out. Finally, New York presents a tale of two grids. You have the high-density demand of the 5 boroughs and the rural snow-battered landscape of upstate. While the state has spent a fortune on hardening the system, nature always finds a way. Whether it's a heat-related brownout in the city or a wind-driven outage in the mountains, your location dictates your response. That completes our 13 state watch list for 2026. This isn't a prophecy of doom, it's a map of probability. For most, these will be minor inconveniences, provided you've done the mental legwork ahead of time. I've developed a streamlined 72-hour blackout blueprint that covers exactly what to do when the hum of the fridge stops. It's linked in the description for anyone who wants a no-nonsense plan. At LARYCURVIVAR, we believe the first 15 minutes of an outage are the most critical. That's when you either set a tone of calm or a tone of chaos. Do you have your light source ready? Can you get to your water? Is there a backup for your phone? If you're hunting for a flashlight in the dark, you've already lost the opening round. Water is your first priority. Don't assume the taps will work. Many city systems rely on electric pumps. Keeping just a few gallons on hand provides a vital safety net. Lighting is next. Skip the candles. They're a fire hazard you don't need. Stick to LED lanterns or headlamps to keep your hands free, and don't underestimate your phone. It's your lifeline for news and emergency calls. A simple charged power bank is one of the best investments you can make. Food is rarely the emergency people think it is. You likely have plenty in the pantry. The trick is eating the perishables first and keeping the freezer door shut as long as possible. The real challenge is often the psychological toll of boredom and the sudden loss of our digital routines. Having books, board games, or just a plan to talk to your family can prevent a minor outage from feeling like a crisis. Control your breathing and your choices. Power outages are disruptive, but they are rarely fatal if you have a baseline of readiness. When the lights go, take a second, check your circle, and solve the problems of the next 3 hours. Panic is a luxury you can't afford. Planning is a tool you can. Whether you're in California dodging fires or Michigan bracing for snow, the core logic is identical. Identify the threat, prepare for the most likely version of it, and start with the basics. It doesn't have to be expensive, and you don't need a bunker. It just requires a little bit of intent. If you want that hour-by-hour breakdown, grab the 72-hour guide below. It's built for real people with real lives. You're now better equipped than 90% of the population just by understanding these risks. Your next move is to take one small action today. Test a flashlight or fill a water jug. Resilience isn't about being perfect. It's about being ready enough to stay calm. Drop a comment below and let me know which state you're in and what your biggest blackout worry is. I check every single one. If you found value here, join the community by subscribing. We're here to help you be ready without the hype. Stay safe, stay level-headed, and I'll catch you in the next video.